I am Beth Milner Raynes. My father was a coal miner in Carbon County. And so the stories of the different coal mining, what they did, was prevalent in our home all of my life. I know my father was a prop puller. That meant when they got through with a room full of coal and they weren't going to use it anymore, it was all propped up and he would pull the props and run. And that way, why he got the highest wage, that's why he did it. But he never did get caught, but many times his companions got caught and were killed. So, but that's what he did. And he worked in the Castle Gate mine. Now, they had an inspector come and my father went with him, and he said, I can't shut this mine down, but it's not safe. Well, my father on their hats, they had little lights so they could see, but it was a gas light, and it was an open flame. And sometimes when he'd walk along, little puffs of gas would just explode in front of him because of this frame on the front of his hat. And that kind of bothered him, and he was kind of worried. So anyway, after this inspection, he decided to quit the Castlegate mine. And he had two other friends that he talked out of it too. And they went to the Sunnyside mine. Now when they got there, they didn't get as good a wage because they had to start at the bottom. And the mines owned all the housing, and he had to take what was available, which wasn't near as nice as what he had in Sunnyside. And so the two men were very upset at him. They said, look, there's nothing wrong with that mine. We don't make as much money. We don't have as nice a house. And the one of them left and went back to Castlegate. But the other one wouldn't speak to my father because he was so upset at him for having him go away. And when the mine did explode and all the men were killed, this man came to my father on his hands and knees and begged him for his forgiveness because he had saved his life by having him not go to that mine. The superintendent we knew in Oregon, but he was the superintendent of the Castlegate mine. And they were ready to get on the little trains. I thought they were called a tipple or something like that. They get on these little trains that went down. And as they got on to go down, all of them got on that to go down. Why, the woman at the office said, "You're wanted on the phone. A long distance call from Salt Lake." And that was a big deal. And so he got off and said, "You go on ahead. I'll come down." He went there and answered the phone, and nobody was there. And he called the operator and said, "I've been disconnected. I had a call from Salt Lake." And she said, "There hasn't been a call all morning long here from Salt Lake to your office." And just then the little train that got down in there, all of them with their open flames, and it blew the mine up. And every man was killed. And that's how come he didn't get killed. One man who usually came early, he was interrupted with this and interrupted for that, and the whistle would blow either 1 minute or 2 minutes before the trolley left. So they knew they had to be out of the house by then. So the whistle blew, and he rushed around, and he rushed out, and he missed the trolley, and it went without him. But that saved his life because he wasn't killed then. But the first time he said in his life, he was happy that he was late. Another man who had decided to quit, and he did quit. He decided that it really was too dangerous, and he wasn't going to do it anymore. And he happened to be the bishop there, and so he was telling everyone that he had quit. And he heard the little whistle blow, and he thought, I can't afford to not go to work. So he ran, didn't take a lunch, didn't take anything, just grabbed his clothes on him and ran and jumped on the trolley, and he was killed. So whoever went on it was killed. Now I remember in Kenilworth Mine, I had an uncle who was killed when they had an explosion, and all of them waited outside, waiting to see who was killed or who they might have got back. Now, all the houses belonged to the mining company, and you lived in the little house, and the store. There's only one store in the mining company, where the mines were, and it was also so you could go get groceries there or things you needed, and then they take it off your check when you got your check at the end of the month. So that they waited, and they brought the body out of my uncle. Now he only had one child, and she was my age. She was a senior in high school, and that left them without a home, because the home belonged to the mining company, and there was nobody working for the mining company, and so they had to move away. But and so that she and they had to finish paying for their groceries, even though he wasn't working because it was. So this was very difficult.
Okay.
What are my experiences with them in the mine was during the Depression, where there wasn't very much money. And I do know that they buried the bodies for them so that they didn't go in debt for that. But whether they got any other money other than that, I don't know. And if they did, it would be very little. I know that when the Sunnyside mine was shut down mostly, it still works a little. They sold all the houses, and people could go out and they could get them free and move them. And so they were moved all over Carbon County from these houses. And there were little houses, but I know my one aunt that lived there, she would gather manure and put all around her house so she'd have beautiful flowers. And I understand we went up to Kenilworth one time, and that's between Helper and Price and up in the mountain. And the mine doesn't work there anymore, but a lot of retired people have lived up there. These little houses, and they're fixed up so cute. And so that some of the places that they don't have money. When I was a girl, it was always a good job. Even during the Depression, you could get a job in the mines. And also, there was a lot of difference between the people that worked in the mines. There were Italians, there were Catholics, there were Mormons, and they had their own little groups that they lived by each other, and they had their own parties and their own, so that you really never associated very much with somebody of a different group. And usually a man would come over from Italy or Greece, and he would work until he got enough money that he could send for his wife and family, or he would send back to Greece or Italy for a wife, and be a single woman that his relatives there would then choose for him to send over, which was so new to us that I remember those things about it. But the miners, even today, I was last week, was in a home where the husband was a miner, and they live in Provo, but he goes back and forth to Carbon County and back. And he says it's a good job, and that they love each other, and that they work for each other, and their lives depended on each other. And I have a cousin whose son is only like 50 years old, and he has to use crutches to get around because he was hurt in the mine. But he gets good compensation, and can't work anymore, but he gets a good compensation. I know that.